Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Saints of the Most High. This is Brother Will again with another video. Coming with this video as a continuation of my discussion concerning the debate that took place this past weekend between Pastor Charles Dow and Ron Young. First and foremost, I want to thank uh, Ron Young for allowing this debate to happen, for being open to the debate, for actually participating in the debate, and for opening his doors for all the brothers and sisters straightway to attend. Also want to thank the members of Jacob's Well Church for being hospitable, for also opening their doors and attending the debate. This video right here, I'm gonna speak on different topics, but I want to start off with a term that's used in the academic field. I know I've heard it many times in college. For those who don't know, I have a degree in anthropology with a focusing more in religious studies and philosophy. Not that it means anything. I mean, I just got a piece of paper from it. I learned a lot of useless information. But anyways, but no, I did hear that anachronism a lot, and I just want to say that when it comes to religious circles, historical circles, this is an epidemic, um, a huge epidemic, and we still see it, unfortunately, being implemented in books even till to this day. And for the most part, it's not used intentionally. It's something that it's done through ignorance. It's not like there's like a sinister person writing books, putting false information, out of time order. I mean, I'm sure that there is, but for the most part, that's not the case. Some people just are misinformed and they're sharing information and they get their facts wrong. Here's a definition of anachronism from Google. If you type it in Google, this is what the definition is a thing belonging or appropriate to a period other than which it exists, especially a thing that is conspicuously old-fashioned. So essentially is anything that's being attributed to a certain historical event, historical figure, religious celebration that does not fit the historical context in which you are speaking about. For example, we're talking about Easter. This is this is the whole topic of this whole debate. Christmas and Easter, should believers celebrate it? Well, anachronism is a big issue with a lot of the symbolism, because the egg and the rabbit, or the egg and the hare, were not parts of the celebration when Easter became a Christian celebration. When Christianity first started celebrating Easter, they did not have Easter egg hunts and have bunny rabbits everywhere. No, with every celebration, with everything, period, when it comes to language, culture, religious observances, everything changes throughout time. An example of this is, you read the King James Bible, that's English from 400 years ago, is quite different than our modern English. And a way that we've been able to combat anachronism is with the advent of new information being discovered, primarily through archaeology. And through that, a lot of the notions and beliefs and quote-unquote facts that we once thought we understood can change. For example, in archaeology, in biblical archaeology, secular archaeology, specifically secular archaeology, they believe that King David was not an actual historical figure. Like we as believers, we believe it because it's in the Bible. We have faith in the Word of God. But for the longest time, secular archaeology did not believe that there was a historical King David because there was no archaeological evidence for it until recently, where a seal, an inscription was found mentioning the house of David. That right there changed the thoughts, changed the books, changed the beliefs of scientists and researchers to now it is an established fact that yes, if there is a house of David, that means that there was a historical figure named David, King David. So we even find an example of changing our belief system due to new information being presented in the Bible. We see this, for example, in 2 Kings, when during the rulership of King Josiah, where the priests actually found the book of the law in the temple when they were doing renovations. This information right here, which later when the king read it, the people read it, they understood that they weren't following the Torah as they should have. So with the advent and the discovery of new things, or things that have been lost to history and rediscovered, we change our points of view. And changing our point of view does not mean that we are changing truth. It means that we had a preconceived notion based on the limited information that we had. And because of the new information, we modify and we have a clearer picture. It's one more piece of the puzzle. So anachronism, it's still plaguing Christians, Hebrew Israelites, secular atheists. I mean, you name it. It's a big issue. And this right here is what a lot of pseudo scholarship thrives on, like the Zeitgeist movies, saying that Jesus is another dying and rising God, like Mithras or Hercules and Zeus and you name it, Serapis, and they try to connect, all these had such and such observances, and they each had 12 disciples, and they died and they raised from the dead. And a lot of this, honestly, is BS. And there's a good documentary called Zeitgeist Refuted or Debunked, and there's a lot of good YouTube channels where they debunk each of the points of Zeitgeist. So that's that. Like I said, I want to thank Ron Young also for commenting on my first video. Thank you, Mr. Young. I will hopefully in this video or in other subsequent videos I will answer your points, because you made a lot of really good points. And one of the points was my take on your position when you brought up the Feast of Dedication, which in my opinion that was a good point being brought up. From my readings, my understanding, yes, we read in 1st and 2nd Maccabees that after Antiochus Epiphanes and his forces were defeated, there was a rededication of the temple because the temple has been defiled through Hellenistic practices. That is a fact. The issue with bringing Hannukah, or the Feast of Dedication, which is also mentioned in the Gospels, is that it went through the same evolution as Christmas and Easter. Sure, it didn't have any pagan symbolism behind it, but there were a lot of man-made traditions that were attributed to it. There were myths attributed to it, like the whole myth of the lampstand not running out of oil for 8 days, and the 9-stranded menorah called the Hannukah, and later even through European Jewry, more traditions were added to it. But this, just because back then, these Jews, these Hebrews, they also have faults. they did not, and this is the point that I've been making in these videos, they did not the divine authority by the Most High to make a feast. Still, it's not Torah. It's not one of the feast days in Leviticus 11. But with Christmas and Easter, like I said, things were added to it. Now you find that Hanukkah is Jewish Christmas because they give each other gifts. 8 days. Child gets a gift, one gift every 1 gift every day for 8 days. You have the game of the dreidel, which is a gambling game. So you see, and even like Easter, where not a lot of Christians can agree on the date, even till today, not a lot of Jews agree on the celebration of Hanukkah. You have the Karaite Jews who do not celebrate Hanukkah. You have different sects of Judaism that celebrate Hanukkah different ways. So when we look at it in that light, I don't think it's a good argument, but it was a good attempt in my opinion. So I do commend you for that. I don't think I'll have enough time because I'm using the free software for this recording, but I will make a video right after this one talking about the quote the pastor quoted from Tertullian and the whole issue of Sunday worship in the Christian church. So again, stay tuned. Shalom, shalom.